Hello guys, welcome to the channel. Bob here, and today we're back with part 4 of our journey following along in the footsteps of the Fellowship, in whatever form that was, you know, right from the Shire all the way to the end, hopefully, I think. But I'll probably have to do some levelling at some point. Anyway, we spent a nice evening with Tom Bombadil and Goldberry. I think they actually spend they spend an evening and then the rest of the day and another evening, and then they leave on the next day. So yeah, so we're off. This video, this particular part, we're going to try and go from Tom Bombadil's house to Bree. I think we should be able to do that in a fairly reasonable time. Description in the book says that the hobbits leave the house. They leave on a path that's behind the house, heading north. Here, north is actually to the side of the house, but we're still heading north. That's fine, because they set off north because of essentially the road between the Shire and Bree is to the north of the house, so we're heading off north. While we're running a bit here, I just thought I'd say that I wasn't quite sure whether it was worth carrying on with these videos, purely because I was kind of really negative in the last one, and I thought to myself, I don't want to go through the whole series picking out the smallest little things. Mainly because it completely, kind of makes a mockery of my statement in the first video, saying I'm not going to be too hard and sort of understand changes from a gaming point of view. So I felt that I was a bit overly critical of the Old Forest. There's actually a lot more to it that you can't see. You can go into in the book. It kind of hints at dark areas that no one goes to, and you can actually go to certain other areas. But my general feeling still stands. You know, I think that they could have done a better job. Maybe could have done something different with it, but I think I was probably a bit overcritical. Yeah, but I decided to carry on because I have to say I'm having a lot of fun. Now, what happens at a certain... I'm not sure if it's sort of around here. It's difficult to say, but they leave the house and they sort of go down into a dell, and Frodo suddenly realises he didn't say goodbye to Goldberry, so they kind of turn around and I think they see her coming over the hill and hear her shout out, and they run back and say goodbye. And they get off on the journey. Now the game's just telling me I'm entering the Northern Barrow Downs, and I think what I can remember of the Barrow Downs, I think probably what we'll find is it's laid out slightly differently, because the description in the book says that ignore these people here, they're not there obviously. The description in the book says that the hobbits spend quite a lot of time sort of in a very downy area, essentially, kind of lots of small hills, very grassy. And they keep heading north, and essentially it says that if they look north, they feel that they can see the line of trees, which could be the road. And if they look to the east, you know, they can see the things all look a bit more dangerous, because they can see the barrows. And the barrows are where, I think, sort of Tom explains to the hobbits that the barrows here are sort of just kings and queens from old kingdoms, small kingdoms that used to rule here. Lots of fighting and sort of fighting between the kingdoms and stuff, and this is where all the kings and queens were buried. And apparently a shadow came and sort of created the wights, I guess, the undead things. So yeah, so we can't. The description says that they head north for quite a long time, up hills and sort of down into little valleys, and we can't really do that. Because it's essentially just up there is the end of the Barrow Down, so we can't really head north for too long. And what we need to do as well, of course, is find the area where the hobbits fell asleep, and I believe it's over here. Now there's a section over here called the in the book they come across a hill. They go up the hill and they find themselves in a little sort of like a little sort of saucer shaped. The top of the hill is flat and it's got a saucer shaped top, and there's a big standing stone in the middle of it. It's called a dead spire. In the book, it doesn't call it dead spire. It doesn't say mention its name at all. But in the game here, it will say the dead spire. And what happens is, after the hobbits have been travelling for some time, I think it gets about midday, and they decide to have some lunch, and they kind of do that here. So they have their lunch. They're all feeling nice and comfortable, and I think that let's have a look. That would be the Oh, I don't know. Anyway, what it says is that they settle themselves down, put their backs against the east side of the stone. They say the stone's quite cold actually. The sun sort of can't sort of penetrate it and heat it up, and they fall asleep, being the stupid hobbits they are. In the book there are quite a lot of warnings at this point. Well, Tolkien kind of gives warnings. You know, he says that the stone sort of looms large and ominous, almost like a warning. He sort of mentions that it's cold to the touch, even though it's quite hot. The day's quite hot, and it's kind of a bit of a bad feeling. But the hobbits obviously take no notice of that, and they fall asleep. And they wake up. When they wake up, the sun's just going down, and there's sort of a mist and a fog has arisen. Now, what happens then? Obviously, they get a bit panicked, but they know that the road is to the north. I think Frodo says that he saw the entrance. He said he saw the north exit from the Barrow Downs. So I think what they probably decide to do is go down on the northern side and just head in a straight line towards the exit. Now, it does say that they, I think, so they don't get lost. What they do is they sort of tie themselves together, and you know. Or maybe they're all sort of holding hands, or they're holding something so they're all together. But typically, you know, they end up getting parted essentially, and Frodo finds himself on his own. Now there is a bit where they said that he kind of he can hear people calling for help, Merry, Pippin and Sam, and he kind of starts running around trying to follow the voices. And it does reach a point where it says he comes across two sort of big standing stones. And when he goes through the stone, he thinks he's come to the entrance, the exit I should say, of the northern exit of the Barrow Downs. But when he goes through, everything just goes black, and then Frodo himself also gets captured by a Barrow-wight. I'm not quite sure where that bit is here. I'm guessing probably that it's not. It could be that, I suppose. Maybe it's that. Yeah, but there is a bit where he goes through the stones, suddenly everything goes dark. Maybe he was walking into a barrow itself, I don't really know. There's a couple of big standing stones here as well. But what I'm going to do is... Yeah, so at this point all the hobbits essentially have been captured. Now I don't know if I can go into a barrow. You never used to be able to when the Barrow was when the Barrow Downs first created, but I can now. There's a decaying Barrow-wight. God knows what they are. Anyway, so yep, so we're inside the barrow, where the hobbits were captured. I think Frodo sort of wakes up and he sees Sam, Merry and Pippin sort of lying on the floor. I think there's a sword across their chest or something maybe, and then he hears some sort of chanting, and I think a hand comes out and sort of reaches for the hilt of the swords, and that's when Frodo kind of, I'm not sure if he maybe stabs the hand possibly, and sort of obviously pees off the wight, but then he remembers the song, because Tom Bombadil taught them a song if they get caught, to sing the song, and they sing the song and Tom comes and rescues them. And I think it's a bit creepy in here. I think I'll get out myself. Let's look to the north again. Yeah, so Tom rescues them, and essentially, you know, he feels that he's not going to be comfortable until he knows that they're safely out of the Barrow Downs, and he agrees to journey with them till they get to the road. So they head north again towards the northern entrance. This is a northern exit, I should say here. I think. Let's just quickly check the map. Yeah, that's a northern exit there. Again, the journeying's quite long actually, and actually when they get through the northern exit here, I think there's still quite a lot of travelling north until they get to the road. But as you'll see when we come out of here, you'll see that it's actually not that far to the road from this particular point. Now what I'm going to try and do, there is a section where oh, dead body there, it's part of some quest. Unfortunate traveller, we'll ignore that. Yeah, so the road's just over there to the north. Now there is a section where Tom talks about an old kingdom. Now this could be it here. As they're heading down towards the road, they come across a wall, and Tom mentions it used to be part of an old kingdom. And I think it says he kind of remembers something sad about it, but he won't tell them what. He won't tell them the story. And it says they go through a little hole in the or a hole in the wall, Obviously we've got a big hole here. And then after that they find themselves on the road to Bree. Now Tom won't travel any further than here. He's got to go back to Goldberry and got to go back and manage a little bit of land. I think even at this point really no one still really knows who Tom and Goldberry are. Lots of sort of there's been lots of sort of discussion about it over the years, and I don't think anyone really knows. I don't know whether he's part of or he's some sort of godlike creature, because if you sort of read back and go through the Silmarillion, you'll see that the world that Middle Earth's in does have its sort of its gods and its sort of its angels and its devils sort of type characters, and it was created, I think, in a similar way to our Earth. You know, a being sort of created it, and it came into being. So lots of discussion as to whether he's one of those, but no one really knows. Anyway, Tom leaves them on the road to Bree, and that's what we're going to be travelling. Sorry, that's the way we're going to be travelling. There isn't much of a description really for this part of the journey in the book. They do get to a point where they say, where the book says they can sort of see Bree Hill, and they can see the little town, clumps of houses, sort of little town below it. Now the only thing I've noticed with Bree is that I think there's supposed to be a mixture of different houses. You're supposed to have hobbit holes in Bree Hill. And then below that you've got some houses where the humans, where the Longshanks live. But I have to say, I don't think there are too many hobbit holes here. Let's go and see if we can. I'm not sure. I'm guessing that's supposed to be Bree Hill, and I would have thought that's where the hobbit holes would be, dug into the hill there. And this is where the humans, the big folk, generally live. So here we go. We've just come through the this would be the west gate, I guess, into Bree. There's Bree Hill, and actually, as you can see up there, yeah, it's kind of quite accurate actually. There's some hobbit holes up there. So the hobbits live up on the hill, and most of the big folk live down here in their great big stone houses. At the I should just point out actually that at the gate. They get stopped by the gatesman because it's sort of night time when they arrive at the gate, and the gate's closed, and the gateman's a bit suspicious, you know, sort of he's not keen on letting them in. He's a bit rude actually, until they point out that you know, normally Bree is quite a welcoming place, and certainly, you know, they certainly didn't expect the sort of welcome that he gave them, and he kind of backs down a bit, lets them in, and apologises. And he says something about, you know, you may sort of notice other strangers sort of in the pony tonight. So yeah, so obviously there's some stuff going on, some bad stuff going on that already, you know, starting to happen. So we'll travel along west to east towards the Prancing Pony. Now the pony, of course, is run by Barlim and Butterbur. I think, I mean, I can't recall offhand, but I think Gandalf may have mentioned that, you know, if he hasn't sort of met up with them at any point, then they may get some news here. And I think he said they can trust Butterbur. He's a bit of a friend of Gandalf's. Anyway, here we go. This is the Prancing Pony. And the hobbits, of course, arrive and they go in. Let's go in and let's go in and we can show you Butterbur. There he is. There we go. Barlim and Butterbur, Tavern Keep. And this is where the hobbits stay. They're looked after by Butterbur and a couple of other hobbits here, or there were. There are in the book anyway. I think they're called, Bob and Nob, probably. He's certainly not him. Yeah, anyway, there's a couple of hobbits about, Bob and Nob, who they kind of make friends with. And they stay, yeah, they stay the evening. Of course, at this point in the story, you know, this is where they meet Strider. I think Strider is in here. I'll go and show you where he is in the next video. But yeah, so we've made it to Bree, safe and sound, just about. We've survived the Barrows, been rescued from the Wights, and we've made it to Bree. Now while we're in here, I thought it might be quite interesting just to bring something up. I play on a role-playing server, and the pony here in Bree is where quite a lot of role-playing takes place. Now it's just one thing I'd like to bring up actually, which I find quite odd, is that not so much now, but quite often early on when the game first came out, you'll get quite a lot of the role players sort of get really annoyed about people who weren't role playing. You know, and what you might do, you might get people in here role playing their character in the pony. People would come in and annoy them, you know, call them names, whatever it was, or on forums they call them names, that kind of thing. But you get like quite a small, as you do, a small minority, quite a vocal section of role players who didn't even like people sort of running around or talking out of character at all. They said it's to kind of spoil the mood, spoil it for them, and the whole point of playing on a role-playing server is that you're role-playing. Now what I found quite odd is that in all of my sort of, I mean I've been reading Tolkien for sort of 30 years or something now. In all of the books I've read and all the sort of studying I've done, I've never once seen, I've never once sort of read it written anywhere that the pony is always full of humans and dwarves and elves and dwarves particularly. You know, it's not, and that was kind of what I couldn't understand with the hardcore role players with their complaints, because essentially, you know, creating an elf in somewhere and bringing it to the pony and sitting around saying, you know, and you kind of get these things going on in you kind of get these role-playing things going on in here where an elf falls in love with a human man and all that kind of thing. They're all trying to recreate the sort of the Arwen sort of Aragorn scenario, but that in itself kind of completely defeats the object of role-playing, I think. I know that sort of role players need to have a place where they can come and role-play, but if you're really going to be sort of anal about it, then the pony was never full of dwarves and elves doing whatever it was they were doing. So essentially they're kind of shattering their own illusion by sort of coming here and doing it. I always found it was quite odd. You know, you'd see things going on, and I mean, I don't have a problem with it at all, but you know, as I said, you'd get like an elf woman talking to a human man, they're both role playing, and clearly they're trying to recreate the whole sort of the whole sort of set of Aragorn, Arwen sort of scenario. You get other things where sort of you get lots of dastardly things going on where groups are fighting and people are getting killed and stabbed, and there's all this sort of, you know, all this sort of intrigue and stuff going on. And again, I found it really odd because it probably wasn't like that in the pony at all, you know. So I mean, it was just something that I've always found quite strange, where you get hardcore role players would complain at people not role playing, and yet to sort of to sit around in the pony as an elf, sort of lamenting your loss of whatever, or you know, lost love, or the fact you want to be back in Lorien or wherever it is you want to be, or Rivendell. You know, I don't think they seem to understand that they were kind of shattering their own illusion that they created, because they weren't really role-playing properly at all, because they were, you know, for me anyway, essentially completely in the wrong location. They shouldn't be here. But, you know, that's kind of how it goes. But after that little little contretemps, we find ourselves in the Prancing Pony in Bree, and this ends part 4 of our journey. Obviously, and the next part of the journey takes place with Strider, or Aragorn, and hopefully we'll be able to sort of follow that one quite closely as well. What I might do is do a bit more sort of reading up and studying, so I just know the route that they take in the book. I'm sort of familiar with it, and we'll see if we can follow it as closely as we can again. Anyway guys, thanks for watching, and I'll speak to you again soon.